And actually, information security has really transformed our society, and you might not actually realize it, but you can think about how we engage in commerce as a form of information security. So years and years ago, it was all commodity based. You trade, a pile of, a barrel of rum for a horse or something. That was what you trade. Then you went to cash, then you went to card, and we're sort of on the edge of going to cryptocurrency. So if you take those list of attributes that we're seeking in our different forms of trading, you can see just how much we've improved and how important it is that the weakest link is overcome. So with commodities, you know when you give someone a barrel of rum that you've given it to them because you no longer have the barrel of rum. It's pretty obvious, like that's an audit. You also can't repudiate the fact that you gave someone a barrel of rum because you don't have the rum anymore. It's given away. So it's auditable, it's non-repudiated, and you can trust it because they could drink the rum or something like that. But it has a pretty poor accountability because someone could steal your rum or tobacco or whatever it was that you were trading. So you have a sort of a problem with theft. So that is really accountability in a way. You also have a really terrible availability. Carrying around all this junk is a tremendous waste of time. It's not available at the snap of a finger or something like that. It's also not private because suppose you're trading wheat and you have these barrels or these huge silos full of wheat. People are completely aware that you have all these resources. If you have a huge farm, like that's very obvious. It's not private. Confidentiality is also pretty bad. You can't keep it to yourself. Someone can come and steal it. So it's also related to theft. With cash, we solved quite a bit just by improving availability, going from a red to, going from a poor availability to a high availability really transformed our society if you think about it. Like how much more commerce and how much more trade is going on just by the fact that we solved the availability problem. It's huge. Now credit cards. Interesting thing about credit cards, it actually is worse in a lot of ways. Because of fraud, you can reverse transactions, you can have inauthentic transactions, you don't really have a full accountability of who's actually, I went the other day to the store and bought something with our business card even though I wasn't the named person on the card. So not really authentic, but it's not like it was a bad thing, but there wasn't really a system in place with cards to ensure that the system is accountable, and it's really poor at doing that. But the one thing it really did solve is privacy and confidentiality, which is it's really hard for people to steal. When you have one plastic card, you can call the bank and say, hey, disable my card, and suddenly that person has no access to your funds. So it also is a lot more available because you don't actually have to carry cash. So you go and buy a car, you don't have to pick, even cash, like if you buy a car, it starts to get a pretty big set of cash and you feel really nervous walking around with like $12,000 in your pocket or whatever you're doing. So just by hitting the weakest link is why everyone uses a card. I mean, does anyone here still do everything in cash? No, everyone's switched. Everyone's on cards, right? So just that one weakest link, that's how important the weakest link is. So this isn't quite there yet, but cryptocurrency is actually sort of an interesting thing to think about, and the fact that it's intended to solve all of the problems. Like with cash, you can actually see the fact that you have cash. With a card, it's connected to a bank account, and someone can see that you have those resources. With cryptocurrency, it's bits in a computer. There's no way anyone can see it. It's completely confidential. It's completely private. It also has a full accountability log. You can't undo it when it's done. So it's actually a really transformative thing. Potentially, important to point out that's still not perfect yet. So I'm not endorsing it necessarily. But again, the weakest link is a huge thing. So whenever you're thinking about how are we going to do better at privacy, or not necessarily privacy, but how are we going to do better at information security, is we need to look at what is our weakest link, and that's the thing that we need to focus on. It's not necessary to get some things perfect, it's more important to get things that are bad better.